Masters, the hard knock school of everything new construction and remodeling, powered by Home Projects. Now introducing the Home Projects House Masters, Steve and John with top 15 home improvement myths, part 3, number 5 to 1.
Welcome back to House Masters, presented by Home Projects. I'm Steve and John's still here, and we're still talking about the top 15 home renovation myths. If you joined us for the last episode, you've already heard this a couple times, but we never pass up an opportunity to ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our podcast, share this information with the world. Our mission here at Home Projects and House Masters is to educate both homeowners and contractors the best of our ability based on our lessons we've learned, John and I, through our careers. And we can't do that unless you share this information with people you think might benefit from it. That includes commenting on the videos, asking questions. If you have an idea for a future episode, we'd love to hear it. And of course, as always, we're taking donations to help support this enterprise on our website, homeprojects.com. If you feel inclined and find value in what we're talking about, please go to the website and help us out a little bit. Anything is more than appreciated, and we're honored that you would consider supporting us in that manner. So, John, we are here to talk about the last 5 of the 15 myths, and we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Number 5. My HVAC system is causing my bonus room to always be hot or cold. We had Tim DeStasio on one of our previous episodes where we talked extensively about this myth. Of course, he debunked it quite effectively. You want to give us a Reader's Digest version of what he said and explain to us why this is in fact a myth?
Yeah, and to understand, I've said this in a number of previous episodes, but I started out in construction as a home performance contractor, and what we did is we applied diagnostic testing to homes to test to see where they were sick, and then we would prescribe solutions to fix those particular problems. And one of the most common phone calls that we would get in the summertime here in North Carolina would be that their upstairs or their bonus room above their garage was 10 or 15 degrees hotter than the room outside the door in the hallway. And instantly, my first question would always be, for one, do you live in a house that has the architecture where you have short knee walls? And 99.97% of the time they answered yes.
If they knew what that meant.
If they knew what that meant. Now, what a knee wall is it's a short interior wall that does not separate the room or the living area from the outside. It separates the living area from attic space. So in most bonus rooms, you'll have your roof line, yep, and then that will come down to a 4, 5, or even maybe in older houses, 3-foot tall short wall space. Oftentimes you'll have an access door to access that attic space behind that particular wall. But most of the time, those particular walls are not insulated properly. And that is actually the true culprit to that major temperature differential between that room and every other room in the house.
And a code violation.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And a code violation.
In what terms?
Well, that wall is considered an exterior wall and needs to be insulated.
Well, yeah, and most of them are insulated, but they're not insulated
adequately.
I didn't want to get into the specifics on this because it's going to be a future episode. But there's a reason why a roof by code needs to be insulated at R30 or R38 or whatever the level is in your particular geographic energy zone. But a vertical wall can only be insulated to a level of R15 if it's a 2x4 wall.
Right.
So it's half the insulating value, but yet the attic space behind that wall and behind that roof line is contiguous airspace. If it's 130 degrees in the attic, it's 130 degrees in the attic space behind the knee wall. And you're trying with the knee wall to insulate that 130 degrees from transferring into the living area at half the insulation value.
Yep.
So again, didn't want to get into the weeds on that one, but you don't know how many times we got a phone call for that, and most of the time they'd called their heating and air contractor out, and most heating and air contractors do not know the building science behind the way it works. A lot of times the tech will come out and say, okay, we need to add some extra supply. And then the next one says, well, you know, they just added supply, which means that the system's out of balance. We now need to add some return. Well, you've done nothing.
You're net zero.
You're net zero. And it's just a matter of doing your research and knowing the science behind the way air flows in a house.
And I'm going to add one other science bit to this too. Most of the time, these bonus rooms are over garages. Not always, but the rooms that are causing this problem, they always appear to be hot or cold, are often over unconditioned space. So it's the same phenomenon as the knee wall being exposed to the attic. But now you have the floor exposed to the garage. And just the same example you gave for the knee wall being under insulated because that's what the code calls for, the floor system is also relatively under insulated because it too is not given the priority of R value as the roof is. And so the garage below you is hot or cold. Hot air rises, goes right through that insulation. If you go listen to our insulation, the radiator barrier myth, you'll understand how heat transfers through the insulation and into that attic. So you're actually being assaulted from the knee walls as well as the floor. And that's also contributing to the hot and cold, which again has nothing to do with your HVAC system.
Yeah, I mean, that particular room of the house, if it's in fact a bonus room, is attacked by all four
All
sides.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't have a chance
It does
to be
not.
the same. It's not properly insulated. But do check in the future, near future, we're going to have an episode particularly on this particular subject.
Yes. All right, number 4. Oh yes. I live in a brick house, so this one makes me laugh. This myth is, I just bought a maintenance-free home. A maintenance-free home. No, you did not. There's no such thing as a maintenance-free home. Now, there might be homes that require less maintenance based on the materials on the exterior of the home, but maintenance-free is not a thing. John, why don't you elaborate on that?
Well, the first question I have to ask you when you tell me that you lived in a maintenance-free home is, which part of it's maintenance-free? Crickets. Steve is correct. There is no such thing as a maintenance-free home. I don't care if you buy vinyl siding, vinyl windows, metal roof, every low maintenance. Notice that the manufacturers do not market themselves as being maintenance free. They used to, until
they got sued.
People like us started holding their feet to the fire. If you have vinyl siding, this was a big thing with vinyl siding back in the day. You had vinyl siding manufacturers left and right saying, make the exterior of your home maintenance free. Do you mean to tell me that if I put this vinyl siding on the house, I'm never going to have to power wash it?
Never have to wash it. I think
it's got a built-in Rain-X on the exterior part of that cladding that just is not going to allow dirt and grime to attach to it.
No, that's not correct. I will defending the maintenance-free people out there. I think what they say when maintenance free is they're probably referring to the vinyl's resistance to certain elements that might cause wood, for instance, to deteriorate sooner. So bugs, and other.
I can hit you back with a jab on that one too.
Okay.
How many times have you seen a vinyl house, a house with vinyl siding, and the week after it's installed, the siding is buckle on the side of the wall?
Because it's cooking. Literally,
well, not just by virtue of cooking. It's cooking. It's cooking, but it wasn't installed.
Installed correctly. Yeah, it gets all wavy. Yeah. So
I mean, you're in a situation there where you got a wavy wall, and granted, you can't do anything from a maintenance standpoint to fix that, but it's I don't care. There's not a thing in the house, and Steve and I have talked about this round and round. Concrete. I mean, you could make. Listen, your yard is part of your house.
You got to mow it.
You could you could just rip all the grass out and put concrete in.
Rocks.
Concrete's not maintenance free. It cracks.
And then weeds grow up through it.
You have to preserve concrete. You need to seal it. That's maintenance. Inside, I was just talking to my wife the other day. We're thinking about painting the interior of the house. I mean, the house is 10 years old now. Needs to be painted. There's certain walls in the house that get hit by the sun all day long. The walls are faded. Plus, tastes change from time to time. You need to change your faucets. Obviously, you need to change your HVAC. You need to get, and I want to stress to you, this is extremely important. We talked about it in the HVAC episode with with Tim. You need to get on a maintenance contract with a local HVAC contractor.
Yep. My guy's coming tomorrow.
The money that you spend for them to come out in the spring and the fall will add 5 to 7 years of lifespan to that HVAC system. I don't care what brand it is.
Yep. Agreed.
There's not an HVAC contractor worth his own weight that will tell you otherwise. So that's extremely important. If you don't maintain anything else in the house, maintain your HVAC system, because that's the one that's actually going to bite you square in the rear end when it goes out on you in the middle of July in a southeast climate.
And always change your air filters.
Yes.
I suffered from that. My wife came home last night and said, "Why is the house not cooling down?" And I popped my filters out, and they were disgusting.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of that.
They were disgusting.
Because you know what it is. It's these dumbass architects that they designed the house so every vent is on the third floor in a foyer, and nobody has a 28-foot ladder. So
you do know that the chances of the architect having put that return vent there is almost zero, right? You did. That was your licensed trade who decided, hey, we're going to put this return vent up 30 feet in the air. Anyway, so you did not buy a low maintenance house. If you want to argue with us, we're more than happy to for you to challenge us on that. But trust us, you didn't. So number 3. So this one touches on a lot of stuff.
This one gets my crawl.
This one gets our crawl. Both John and I both have dealt with this. I still deal with this every day. We've touched on it in our homeowner and our contractor contract discussion. We've touched on it in our profit discussion. We've touched on it in almost every episode. At some point in time, this comes up. And without further ado, number 3 is, I am going to save a bunch of money on my next home project and buy all the material myself.
This one gives me chronic migraines. My first question that I ask to this statement is, when you go to the doctor's office, do you bring your own gauze? Do you bring your own prescription? Same goes for construction. For one, you have to understand, us as trained contractors, we are in the realm of purchasing product on a daily, not only a daily basis, not only an hourly basis, but sometimes every 15 minutes, depending on what the heck's going on a job site.
Yep.
We know purchasing like the back of our hand. And if we are loyal to our supply houses, we get drastic discounts compared to what you're going to do as a one-off customer walking into Home Depot to buy a hack of lumber for your deck. Or to go into Ferguson Enterprises and get your bath fixture package. They don't know you from Adam. You have no relationship with the people down at Ferguson. We do. So that's the first thing. The second thing I will say is any contractor worth his own salt is going to offer oftentimes mandated by the state, but most states require at least a 12-month warranty on any work that's been produced. With that warranty, now that warranty mandated by the state's usually based on labor or workmanship, okay? My contracts always included material and labor. Now, the material was obviously warranted specifically by the manufacturer that we used on the project. But where I came in was I brokered that warranty from actually taking place and being to replace product should something ever go awry after we actually left the house. So in other words, if we put down wolf decking, say, and it was Captiva Plus and it was X color, and we put it down, and then 2 weeks later we got a bad rainstorm, and all of a sudden one of the boards started curling up or it started delaminating. That didn't have anything to do with workmanship or how we put the board down. It had something to do with the run of the product. So I would get in touch with my Wolf rep. I'd give them the address and the homeowner's name. They would get in touch with the homeowner, and that warranty would be taken care of, and then I would follow up with the homeowner to make sure everything was kosher at the end. If you decide as a homeowner that you want to buy the product,
yep,
I'm washing my hands of my warranty.
Laissez-faire.
I'm still going to provide you what the state's mandating me to provide in terms of workmanship and labor. But I had a lifetime workmanship warranty. We would come out 10 years later and fix something if it had to do with labor. Okay. But from a material standpoint, you buy the material, you handle it on yourself, Jack.
Yep.
I'm out of it. Have nothing to do with it.
And this also goes
on top of that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said this also applies to self-performing work too, not just buying material, but providing your own labor to put it on.
Yeah. The other thing is, let's go back to that deck scenario. You're hell-bent that you want to buy your own decking material because you just don't believe me that I'm going to buy it at probably 12 to 16 points less than what you are when I go and ring it up at the supply house. When I arrive at that job site on Monday morning, all of the material better be there. And I'm not speaking in terms of just the deck lumber. I'm talking about the fasteners. I'm talking about all of the Simpson strong ties. I'm talking about everything ancillary to that lumber that's being used on that deck better be on that job site, or I'm charging you a day's labor for my wasted time. And I'm not just being a jerk about it. Every contractor worth his weight is going to do the same exact thing if they're in the business for the right purposes and they're there to make a fair profit. So again, cutting corners, just like we talked about in the last segment about not getting a building permit. Come on, spending $400 or $250 on a permit when you could end up not getting it and it costs you $40,000 on the end. That makes no sense. Just let us do what you've hired us to do, and that's to provide a top-notch product and service to the end result. And let us make you happy.
Yeah. All right. Number 2. These last 2 are heavy. That's all. I mean, really, the last 5 have been heavy, but this one's a biggie. Number 2 is solar is the end-all, be-all to energy savings.
Yeah, we're going to piss a lot of people off with these next 2.
You want to start this, or you want me to start it?
No, I'll be glad to.
All right. Go for it.
I'd love to be the catalyst to pissing people off. Let me first say, before y'all do have full conniption fits, solar is a fantastic means of saving energy in a house.
It can
It
be.
is. Truly is. I'm not saying that facetiously.
Nope, that's true.
It's a fantastic means. And the costs over the last 5 to 10 years have drastically reduced to the point where in a lot of cases it makes a lot of sense to do. I have actually entertained the thought in a number of my houses. I've just never lived in a house, for one, that allowed it either. Like in my neighborhood doesn't allow solar panels on the roof, so I can't do it. My previous house, we just had too much shade.
Yep.
And we didn't have direct sunlight. But otherwise, if it hadn't been for those conditions, I would have put solar on the house. But solar is not, while it's the sexy thing to do, I will acknowledge that. It's great when you're out mowing the lawn on a Saturday and you say, "Hey, Timmy, come down the street and see my new solar panels." It's a conversation that you can't wait to have with your neighbors. It's not the first thing that you do. If your house is 20 years old, say, built in turn of the century, 2000, 2001, and you haven't insulated that house since it was built, your insulation value in that attic and the insulation in that crawl space or the basement, if it's unconditioned, is probably less than what should be they're required by, for 1, code, 2, geographic zone. Now, that's not to say that existing homes are required to meet code. They are if you provide remodeling services to them. But there is a specific standard that the Department of Energy sets for a particular geographic zone. For instance, in this area, it's R38 for attic insulation. If you don't have R38 attic insulation, you have no business putting solar panels on the roof. If your house has not been properly air sealed, or your duct system within your HVAC system has not been properly sealed, you have no business doing solar. If you've air sealed and duct sealed and you've properly insulated the house, I would go even so far as to, if you still have you have a proper ventilation system on the roof in the attic, and you still have an overabundance of heat in the attic, and you haven't put a radiant barrier in, I'm not putting solar panels in. And the reason why I say that is yes, to put solar panels on that roof or out in the backyard or wherever you put them, whatever application you choose, is a great thing. You're not maximizing the benefits to make your home as energy efficient as it can be. You're wasting a lot of money, actually. I mean, for the cost of what solar panels are, you're almost pissing in the wind. Mm-hmm. So I know, Steve, you agree with me on this, so why don't you take over and give your thoughts?
Well, I too have studied putting solar panels on my home. I also live in a neighborhood similar to yours, but we do not have a restriction in our ARC with solar panels. There's lots of people in my neighborhood who have solar panels. My experience is from it's more of a practicality side. I think if you've ever been to Home Depot or Lowe's or any big box store, you walk in the front door, there's usually someone standing there wanting to sell you, solar panels. Usually they claim that they're participating in a program that's sponsored by your local electrical utility. And that may be right, it may be true, but it may not be. There might be some false advertising there. Or they go door to door in your neighborhood looking for homes that have appropriate roof line that can take solar panels. And they've come to my house, and I've sat down with two sets of salespeople, over the last 5 years, because I really want solar panels on my home. I think there's a value to them, just like you do. I have a good solar exposure. I have a very efficient home. I've checked all those boxes that you just mentioned, John. I've also converted all of my lights to LED lights, low voltage lighting systems, Energy Star appliances. I have a very efficient gas HVAC system. I have gas appliances, gas hot water heater, so my electrical demand is low, which of course is necessary for solar panels, because solar panels are not really, unless you have a lot of them, they're not efficient enough to run a high demand electrical system. So if you've done all those things and you want solar panels, great. But I wouldn't do it the way I'm getting ready to tell you about. So a little anecdotal story. They come to your door. They say, "Hey, Mr. Johnson, we'll sell you solar panels, and you won't pay any more energy, and you won't pay any more to the energy company," which technically they're correct. The idea is that they sell you a system that, based on their engineering, will cost you per month. And notice, cost you. They're actually financing them for you. The goal is to design a system that costs you the same amount per month as your electric bill. So let's say my house has a $150 a month electric bill. They came in and said, "We can figure out how to finance these to you, so you only pay $150 a month for your electric panels," with the promise that the system that they're going to put on my house replaces all of the power I'm pulling from the grid. So that means that my power bill goes down to zero, but my finance bill goes up to $150. So it's a wash. In your monthly budget, it's a wash. And of course, their pitch is that price will never go up, unlike your electric bill. And they're right. In theory, you're basically taking out a 30-year loan or whatever it is to get down to $150, because the system itself in my house was about $70,000. $70,000. And if you divide that by 30 years, that roughly gets you what the value of my electric bill. So he said, "We're going to replace your electric bill with your solar panels. And after 30 years, when you own the solar panels, not only are you not paying for the solar panels, you're not paying for your electric bill, you're zero. You're net zero." That's a lie, and for a couple reasons. So here I go. So one is, the solar panels they were selling, although fantastic, do not have a 30-year lifespan. In fact, the warranty on them was only 10 years. And part of their sales pitch was an extended warranty, so that if after 15 or 20 years they failed, you could actually replace them. It's more of a long-term insurance policy than it was a warranty. So that's the fallacy. And ignoring their durability, over time, solar panels lose their efficacy, their efficiency, and their ability to collect protons and make electricity. And in 30 years, they're just simply not going to be as efficient as they are the day they're installed. In 10 years, they won't be efficient. 5 years, they just degrade. That's just the nature of them. And now maybe someday science will figure this. Elon Musk is going to figure out how to put solar panels on your house that last forever. Great. We're not there yet. That's not what they were selling me. And so they financed these panels out for 30 years. After 10 years, they're wore out. And all of a sudden, I'm now pulling juice from the grid. I'm pulling electricity from the grid because I'm no longer powering it myself. So now my power bill starts to go back up again. And I'm paying $150 a month for my solar panels. So the financing on it, the financial side didn't make a lot of sense. The other thing is, and this is a minor detail, it's a caveat, but everyone thinks that they're pulling the power out of the sky that's powering their house. That is not correct. Unless you invest in batteries, cells in your garage that store the electricity, the power you are collecting is actually going out into the grid. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to say that's bad. Your electric meter actually spins the other direction and it goes out into the grid. And if it's part of a program with the power company, what they have done is they've been mandated by the state legislature or even the federal government to reduce the amount of fossil fuels they put into the environment, the carbon footprint, through their coal power plants. And the only way to keep up with the demand of electricity and reduce their carbon footprint is to put solar panels out. Well, they don't have hundreds of thousands of acres of land to put up solar panels, arrays. So guess where they put them? On your roof. And that's how these programs work. They're going around finding homes to put solar panels on. And then they figure out a way to make the finances work so it doesn't cost you anything. It's all good. There's nothing wrong with anything I just said, unless you really start to look at the ROI, the return on investment, and the duration of the panels. And it didn't work out for us. Now, if you want to pay cash for them, if you've got 60 grand laying around and you just want to buy them, then the day they are installed, they immediately start returning investment on you. But you're still out 60 grand. Your checking account's now down $60,000. And last, my roof line. I live in a big brick box, much like John's. My roof line is chopped up. I've got a 2-story house and lots of different elevations, and there wasn't a really appealing way to put solar panels on my roof that didn't look like I had little squares tacked all over it. And I'll be honest with you, the straw that broke the camel's back here was when my wife realized that we'd end up with solar panels on the front of the house. Because a majority of my house faces southwest, so they would capture morning sun, and then in the afternoons the solar panels would stop working because the sun disappears. And in order to make the system work, they had to put solar panels on that southwest exposure, which happens to be the street side, the fronting the neighborhood. And I just couldn't get her over the aesthetics of that. And I get it. We love our house. We don't really want that on it. Now, again, someday Elon Musk figures out how to build a solar panel that looks like shingles. He has. Those exist right now. They're not in our market. But someday that might exist. So anyway, long story short, the programs exist. They do work. They're not scams. Scammy. They feel scammy, but they're not if you really look into it. And they are supported by science. The last thing is that all of these programs are based on the principle that that your local government is going to give you dollar for dollar the value of the electricity that you are generating from your power. And when I say your government, you say, well, the government's not selling me the power. No, but your local utility is, which is mandated by most likely by your local or your state government. In North Carolina, where we are, the state has determined that if you are selling power back to the grid, that power company has to pay you dollar for dollar, no discounts, which is good for you. And every year, the legislature has to vote on that. So next year they could say, we're going to allow them to only pay you 75 cents for every dollar's worth of kilowatt power. So now you've lost 25 cents in your power collection. They're never going to exceed $1, but it can certainly come down. And you say, well, why is that important? Well, that's important because that determines how much they are paying you for the power you're generating. If you're generating $100 worth of power and they're only going to pay you $75 for it, now the ROI on that solar system just went down. So you're a little bit at the mercy of your state legislature, whether or not they approve that dollar for dollar every year. and that changes every year as well. And they'll use that as a sales pitch. They'll say, you got to sign up now, get locked in. If I can get you to sign on the dotted line today, that dollar for dollar rate's locked in for 3 years. And they're technically correct, but it's a high pressure sales situation. Anyway, that's my story. There's much better ways of putting solar panels on your home that are less scammy, less high pressure sales, but that is an effective way of doing it if the return on investment's there for you.
I have nothing to add because my migraine's already started.
All right. So on to the last one, and this is I just had my soapbox moment, and John's going to get ready to have his soapbox moment here. So John, you want to drum roll for the number one top common home improvement myth? Do you want to give it away, or do you want me to say it?
I'll let you say it.
All right.
I'll give you the honor.
You're going to give me the honor. So this actually happens to be a title of one of our videos. So this is how much this means to John. So I can't wait to hear him rail on this. The number one most common home improvement myth is replacement windows are the holy grail of energy savings. John, take it away.
The solar thing gave me migraines. This is such a long-standing myth that I'm immune to the migraines. So the migraine that I just had while we were speaking in terms of the solar is gone now.
I superseded it.
This myth has been the catalyst to this myth has been marketing. Very effective marketing by the window manufacturers and window contractors of the country. The tens and hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 20 years that has been spent on pushing the benefits of windows and the energy savings that come from them. The window business has been, you've had some major national contractors sued by the FTC for improperly marketing what a particular window product can do. You go into a local home show in the spring or the fall, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be at least one contractor there that's going to tell you that you can save anywhere from 30 to 50% on your energy bill. And I emphasize the word energy bill for a purpose. Windows don't have a damn thing to do with your energy bill. They do have a direct reflection on your heating and cooling bill, though. Your heating and cooling bill nationally, on average, is going to be roughly anywhere between 45 and 55% of your overall energy bill. Okay, now we get into the weeds on the Windows 101 and 102 episodes if you want to look at the science behind everything that I'm talking about here. But in order to get a 50% savings on your energy bill, you would practically have to save 100% of your heating and cooling bill, which we know is never going to happen, or else you wouldn't have an HVAC system. So the other reason why this myth is inaccurate. There are a number of projects within the home that I could prescribe to you to do that will cost half the cost of what it's going to cost you to replace your windows, and you'll return that investment 3 or 4 times before you were ever, in fact, in some cases, 10x by the time you ever get to pay that window project off. I'll list a couple of them. Duct sealing, air sealing, radiant barrier,
sealed crawl space,
Radiant barrier is, again, there's a myth with radiant barrier, but it's a good product in the right application. Um, what I'm getting at here is, and we're going to have some ongoing episodes about this. This is a major um, subject that has become very big over the last 15 years or so. You've heard Steve and I mention it multiple times in this episode as well as others, is the term building science. In order for any project to be a solution, not a product in the home, you have to apply building science to it first. What cannot be measured can't be managed. So in other words, if you can't measure as to how sick your home is or where the sickness actually lies, you have no business prescribing a solution to fix that. It's just like I mentioned earlier in the episode about, you don't go to, in fact, it might have been the last episode. You don't go to the doctor's office and say, well, doc, I'm sick. What's your problem, John? Well, I've got a sore throat. Well, that's the reason why you got a sore throat is you've got strep throat. We need to go ahead and give you some erythromycin and we need to give you some cough medicine. It's not the way it works. The doctor's actually going to do diagnostic testing on you. They're going to do a strep test. They're going to do, a number of different other things. He's going to test your temperature. He's going to put the wooden spoon down your throat and gag you to death. He's going to do a number of things before he determines as to whether you have strep throat or whether you have, whatever you have. Heck, he hasn't even determined whether it's viral or bacterial. He's got to do diagnostic testing before he does anything in terms of prescribing what the solution is going to be to getting you back to being well. Your house is the same thing. And I get sick and so tired of homeowners talking and thinking that, oh yeah, I just need to replace my windows. And they go out and they spend 25, 30, 50 grand on windows. They live in a $170,000 house, which makes absolutely no monetary sense whatsoever. And they don't realize that their payback on that 50 grand is 120 something years. And in the same breath, the average homeowner in the United States lives in their home for 7.5 years. So just as we always tell you in every episode, the truth hurts sometimes. It's a hard pill to swallow, but we're not going to stop telling you the truth. We have no vested interest in lying to you. I'm out of the trenches now. I have people that I get along with on both sides of the table, homeowners. Heck, I'm a homeowner myself. Steve's a homeowner. But I'm not a contractor anymore. And, I will tell you 100% truth. I talked more homeowners in my 10, 11 years in the business out of doing replacement windows than I talked them into doing windows. Most of the time, I was going out to the house with the homeowner thinking that they were getting replacement windows. And by the time I was done with them, they were doing something else for half the expense and 3 to 5 times the ROI. Now, if a homeowner was hell-bent on doing windows, I wasn't just going to walk away from it just by virtue of trying to be sanctimonious and push my knowledge around. But, in a situation like that, I'd gladly put a window in. But I wasn't going to promise you all the high expectations that a number of these companies will. And you just have to be aware of what they can do and what they can't do. A good vinyl window, which is 80% of the replacement window industry out there, is going to save you roughly probably about 15 to 20%, maybe 25% of your heating and cooling costs. But remember, that's only 50%, give or take, of your overall energy bill. So Obviously, there's some exceptions to every rule. You get into historic homes and you got single pane glass, and you're moving to a situation where you're moving to double pane with vinyl. Obviously, there's going to be more savings in a house like that. There's going to be more savings for a house that leaks like a sieve and has, $800 power bills. Obviously, there's an exception to every rule, but on the average, you're looking at 15 to 25% on your heating and cooling tops. I'm off of my pedestal. I'm done. What else do you have to add about this? Because we've talked about this thing so many times, and it just gets tiresome to talk about.
I am not going to add a darn thing. We've sliced and diced this through Windows 101, 102. We even touched on it with Tim DeStasio and his HVAC videos. So if what John just said wasn't enough for you, we've got 4 or 5 hours of video behind us here where we dive into that way deep. So I think we've come to the end of our top 15. I know we're no Dave Letterman, but I think this was enthralling, absolutely enthralling. So hopefully you learned something here on these 15. John and I actually debated what order they should be in, but I think we got it right. As with all of our topics, we'll probably end up doing an episode on each one of these at some point in time and diving into it. So if you're listening on a podcast or listening on YouTube, hit the little bell that lets that software know that you want to be told when we release new content. You'll get a push notification or something, and that's the best way to kind of keep up with what we're doing. But the real goal here is to start an organic discussion with you. We've been sitting here talking to each other for quite a while now, and we'd like to hear from you, what your thoughts are, your questions, your comments, and by all means, please share this with anybody and everyone who might benefit from it. It costs you nothing to hit share and share it to Facebook or Instagram or your socials, but it benefits us tremendously. One of our goals here is to get Google's attention so that these videos show up in search engines when people start asking questions about home improvement, and we feel like we have a lot to share in that discussion, but it only works organically if you help us with it. And of course, if you feel so moved, we'd be honored if you consider making a donation to our cause. Go to our website, homeprojects.com, click on the donate button, and there's lots of legit ways to send us a few bucks if you're so inclined. So that's kind of the end of the top 15. We hope you guys enjoyed. If you so care, again, go back and watch some of our other videos or podcasts. There's a lot going on our channel. But until the next time, hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the flip side. Peace.
Don't forget to like our video and subscribe. Leave a comment or question while you're at it. Your support is very important. Visit www.homeprojects.com to donate via PayPal or GoFundMe. Thank you.